Hello, and welcome to this edition of Arlington Public News. I'm Paul Werlin.
And I'm Michelle Marino. We want to begin by acknowledging the sad news of the passing of Mayor Thomas Menino. He was the longest-serving mayor in Boston's history, and his legacy will endure for many years to come. Our condolences go out to his family at this difficult time.
At Arlington Public News, we bring you stories of interest to Arlington and surrounding communities. In tonight's newscast, we speak with the town manager about the National Grid electrical rate increase and the potential effects on our community. We address international concern about the Ebola virus, and we introduce the APN Book Club.
Plus, a review of frightening flicks that are a must-see for Halloween. All this and more coming up next. Please stay with us.
Effective on Saturday, November 1st, the National Grid charges for electricity will significantly increase. Town Manager Adam Chapdelaine came to our studio to talk about how the town will deal with this dramatic rise in the cost of electricity.
Hello, I'm James Milan, and I'm here today with Arlington Town Manager Adam Chapdelaine, who has kindly come in to talk to us about the National Grid electric rate increase that we will all be seeing on our bills starting very shortly. Adam, thanks very much for coming by.
My pleasure.
So I wanted to start off by talking about the bigger picture here, why we're going to be getting what is widely reported as about an average 37% increase in our electricity bills, basically. My understanding is that in research, it's claimed that it's a persistent shortage of natural gas for generating plants that is driving power prices to record levels. So can you explain a little bit how that's working?
My general understanding probably be similar to yours, that as coal-fired plants aren't firing coal, they're beginning to fire natural gas. And as pipelines aren't being expanded, there's less natural gas coming into the region. And as liquefied natural gas facilities aren't being brought online along the East Coast, there's another sort of way that natural gas could get here that's not being built out. So I think it is driving a shortage in available natural gas for both the plants to burn and then your residential customer or business customer to burn. So there's a lot of good reasons why some of those things shouldn't happen, and I think there's a lot of good reasons why it pushes us to try to expand renewable resources so that we can take some of the pressure off natural gas prices. But it results in, a winter that's coming in this weekend, it feels like, where prices are going up and citizens and people who live all across the state are going to be struggling to figure out how to pay that bill.
But it is, in fact, the supply services rate that is going to be rising in this way. And that, I guess, we just would like to clarify, according to National Grid, and I just want confirmation that this is your understanding as well, that's basically a rate that they are paying the suppliers of the energy, of the electricity, and then simply passing that on to their customers without marking that up at all. Is that right?
That is my understanding.
So National Grid is not the bad guys in this case, and
yeah, I know. I think that's fair to say. I think that is fair to say. It's interesting from the town perspective. We have a contract with a supplier and then a separate contract with the utility. So we buy our natural gas from Hess now, and we buy our electricity from TransCanada. And then it's delivered to us by National Grid and NSTAR. So we have separate contracts, whereas your average resident, unless they're doing something unique, has that one bill from NGrid or one bill from NSTAR. So they would view that as one bad guy who's driving the rate. But I think you articulated it well, that the energy utility is really just buying the fuel from another source. So if that price goes up, the price that they have to then turn over to the customer goes up as well.
So I'm aware of the LIHEAP, or Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. And I know that's a state program, is it?
That is a state-run program, correct.
State-run program that Arlington residents also have access to if they qualify.
Correct.
And that qualification for that program depends mostly on income. Is that correct? Are there any other restrictions on who can qualify?
So yeah, my understanding is it's a straight income-based program, and to qualify, you have to make 60% of the state median income based on your household size.
Okay.
So that's the metric you have to meet. And though it's a state program, and the state used to provide a person in Arlington to facilitate or manage that program, when funding was cut back several years ago, I believe in 2011, that person was removed. So the Arlington Department of Health and Human Services now manages that state program, actually through the Council on Aging.
And the figures that I've researched and seen is that the qualification would be a one-person household about $32,000, two-person household about $42,000, three-person about $52,000, and it kind of goes on from there. Are there other sources of assistance available, either through state programs or town programs, for those residents who would love a little help with these bills, but don't qualify for the LIHEAP program?
So I'll start with saying there is an Arlington Fuel Assistance Program that is specific to Arlington, and it's donation driven. And it isn't so much for people who don't qualify for the LIHEAP program, but rather for people where the LIHEAP program doesn't go far enough to cover their bills. So they can also apply through Health and Human Services and qualify for between $200 to $400, which what Health and Human Services told me usually can get somebody who is in need to the end of a winter. So at the tail end of the season, if LIHEAP hasn't covered the bills, the Arlington Fuel Assistance Program may take care of what's remaining. As for the general population, I think the best advice I could give would be to pursue something through Mass Save, whether that be a home energy assessment where some recommendations could be made to tighten up the house, make the house more efficient, or to pursue some rebates or incentives for an upgrade to your heating system or your electric system so that you can be more efficient and just use less as opposed to gain financial assistance.
Well, Adam, thanks so much for coming in today to
pleasure.
talk with us about this, and wish you could do more about,
me too.
about changing the situation. I'm sure you do as well, but we appreciate knowing more about what the causes are and what our options are. So thanks very much.
You're welcome.
With Adam Chapdelaine, Arlington's town manager, I'm James Milan for Arlington Public News. Thanks for joining us.
There is a growing international discussion about the spread of Ebola and the concerns about controlling the virus. The Ebola virus triggers a severe, often fatal illness in humans. The most recent outbreak has deeply influenced family relations, social interactions, and ancient cultural traditions in West Africa. Up next is an interview with the founder of a nonprofit organization who recently assisted health workers in Liberia combating the spread of the virus.
I'm Yawa Degboe with Arlington Public News. I'm here with Bill Massaquoi.
Good morning, Yawa. Thank you. It's my pleasure to be here this morning. I am the founder and executive director of Rebuild Africa, and the objective of Rebuild Africa is to support education, training and mentoring back home. As you know, because of the many years of civil war in Liberia, a lot of people died. Many of the professionals left the country, and educational institutions were damaged.
And now Ebola, obviously.
Yes, now Ebola, because it looks like everyone's attention is turning to this deadly virus. As you know, it's very virulent. It has killed over 3,000 people now in Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea. And over half of the people who've died so far are from Liberia. And the disease is spreading very rapidly in Liberia as well. So that's a very sad situation.
How did it change the mission of the organization?
Well, I wouldn't say that it changed our mission per se, but it certainly made us to, I wouldn't say stop, but to deal with the emergency. Like when people are dying, you need to keep them alive before you educate them, put it that way. So all of a sudden, all of us who run local organizations found ourselves grappling with this virus. It's not only threatening our various organizations, but our very lives, and indeed the existence of our country. So I guess at this point, it's all hands on deck, because we all need to do our part to fight this disease. For our part, Rebuild Africa, one of the things we did, because we knew we were not a health institution, so one of the things we did was to partner with a mission organization. They run a hospital, and this hospital has been the very first in the front line of fighting the Ebola. If you remember, 3 of the U.S. health workers who got infected in Liberia Dr. Bentley, Nancy, and Dr. Rick Sikra all work from that hospital. In fact, I had the privilege of working with Dr. Sikra many times, many occasions, trying to to raise more support to support the Elwa Hospital in Monrovia until he got infected and was brought to the U.S. For treatment. So we have joined them. We support them and we raise resources and channel it to them to help them fight the disease. And that's what we're doing.
So could you remind us how people contract Ebola? How do they get infected? And what's contributed to the spread of Ebola in Liberia?
It's really been spreading like wildfire. You know, we've had families in which almost nearly all members of the family have died from Ebola. There are places where a whole family has been decimated, completely wiped out because of Ebola. Because in Africa, you know, we also have very strong culture. You know, like it's very communal. When you do get sick, there are people who come to take care of you. There are people who are always there to serve you and to make sure that you receive everything you need to get well. And unfortunately, there's sometimes, at least in this case of Ebola, it's showing that doing that for a family member or a relative, it's just not the right thing to do, but it's what people are having to do. I mean, imagine if you were to have a child that is 3 years old, and he or she comes down with Ebola, and you go to the hospital, and all the hospitals are closed. There's nowhere you can take your sick child. I mean, what are you going to do? Leave your sick child in the street to die? You're not going to do that. So people are having to take their sick back home, in their homes, in their communities, to take care of them, to nurse them. And unfortunately, by doing that, they're spreading Ebola.
Bill Massaquoi, thank you so much for your hope, for sharing your experience today. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate it. And we wish you all the best.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much for this opportunity, for giving me the chance to talk about my country and what is happening there. And I hope that those who are listening to us, again, will get involved, get involved. And one of the ways they can do that is by donating today. And again, our website is rebuildafrica.org. And there on our page, we do have a space there where people can go and donate for Ebola. And I hope that our listeners will do that today.
We'll make sure that this information will be viewable by everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm Yawa Degboe with Arlington Public News. Thank you for watching.
APN contacted Christine Bongiorno, director of Arlington's health department, to inquire about our town's preparedness in the aftermath of Ebola's appearance in the U.S. We received this statement. As with any threat to public health, we work closely with our local, state, and federal public health partners to prevent the spread of disease. If a case of Ebola were diagnosed in Arlington, we would work to isolate anyone at risk and take measures to prevent the further spread of the disease. We do this every day for hundreds of diseases, ranging from tuberculosis to salmonella, measles to meningitis.
The 5th annual Running with Friends 5K was held on September 7th. The race is organized by the Friends of the Arlington Council on Aging to benefit Arlington senior citizens. And this year, more than 300 runners participated. We bring you highlights from this fun-filled, intergenerational local race.
Good morning, this is Yawa Degboe. I'm here with Ken Greenley, event coordinator of the race today. Could you tell me a little bit more about the event?
Yes, this is the 5th annual Running with the Friends 5K, and it's to raise funds for the seniors of Arlington, which is a rising population and in great need. And it's a fantastic event. It's a community event. And one of the things that we do is get sponsors, our local businesses, and individuals involved. For example, we have probably about 100 volunteers today. 50 of those will be from the students at Arlington High. And others in the community, a lot of seniors, a lot of younger folks will come in, and a lot of the businesses are involved.
We've been doing this for 5 years, since the first year. We're also sponsors, so we sponsor the race and we help out afterwards, and we take care of a lot of seniors in town at Arlington Chiropractic, so we always like to support them as well.
So what inspired you guys to come out and race today?
So we're
good cause and giving back to Arlington. So this is good. We're proud.
This race has grown every year for the last 5 years, and again, it met and exceeded our expectations. The community, from the town folks that have helped, the sponsors, the businesses, and of course the runners, the volunteers, and everybody that came to cheer along. It's going to be a great race, and as I've been saying all summer long, it's all downhill till the last hill. 4, 3, 2, 1, go!
We are delighted to introduce a new program, the APN Book Club. Co-hosted by producer Gayatri Sundarajan and ACMi's James Milan, this series will regularly shine a spotlight on a book of interest to the hosts and the Arlington community. In recognition of the recent appearance of nationally known author Jay Asher at the Audison Middle School, the first book we highlight is his bestseller, 13 Reasons Why.
Hello and welcome to the APN Book Club, a series for book lovers. I'm Gayatri Sundarajan.
And I'm James Milan, and our aim is to make the APN Book Club a literary destination for you.
Each segment will spotlight a particular book, author, or event, focusing on its personal and contemporary relevance to us and to you.
And in this first segment, in anticipation of author Jay Asher's arrival in Arlington in a couple of weeks, we are going to be talking about his book, 13 Reasons Why. So Gayatri, I haven't read the book, I have to say, but I know that you have. And I wondered if you could begin by telling me and our audience what the book is about.
And so the book 13 Reasons Why is by Jay Asher. And basically the book is about this girl named Hannah Baker who commits suicide. And after that, she leaves 13 tapes to 13 different people, chronicling the reasons why she committed suicide, and they kind of build upon each other.
So you mean the 13 Reasons Why basically comprise 13 steps on a path that ends in this tragedy? Anybody could have stopped that train, let us say, taken that train off of its track, if only they had done something different?
Yeah, that's basically what it's saying, and it's also the interesting thing is that the way he puts it is that people don't know exactly what they're doing. They're kind of one action isn't just one action, it's kind of a chronicle of several actions that happened previously.
Now I know that Jay Asher is coming to town as part of a national tour.
Well, his tour is about bullying, and it's a 50 states tour that basically he goes to one school in each state and he kind of talks about bullying and also about his books. And the thing is that I think what he's trying to say in his books and also probably in his tour, which is coming up on October 27th, is that bullying isn't something that you go and physically hurt someone. It can be by just watching something happen. So somebody falls downstairs, somebody else teases them, you don't do anything. You're still being part of that bullying situation. And also, it's kind of realizing that the small things you say or do that may have a negative impact may be larger than what you think they are. You think it's 1 minute where you're saying a spur of the minute reaction, whereas in fact it might actually affect somebody in a larger way.
These kinds of themes seem more part of the fabric of life for high schoolers than for middle schoolers. What's your take on that?
So I think that the book itself is kind of set in the world of high school, or some of the situations such as social settings like parties. I just don't think middle schoolers would understand them as well. But I think that the reason he probably would come to a middle school is just that it's kind of getting to the idea of bullying early. So before you get into high school, you still kind of know the options that are open to you. And I think that his idea by coming to a middle school would be trying to show them that these kind of lessons also affect you, and you're also going to see these situations. You might as well know about them earlier, and so that you won't be taken by surprise when you get to high school, and you won't have to have something like this happen in your life.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I do understand the book much better now and the themes that are there and why Jay Asher would and should be out on a national tour promoting the conversation around what he's exploring in this book. I look forward to his appearance. Thanks so much for joining us for this first segment of what we hope will be a long-running series, the APN Book Club.
I'm Gayatri Sundarajan.
And I'm James Milan. Thanks for joining us.
Keep on reading.
Recently, 13 Forest Gallery hosted the work of artist C.W. Rowley and held an open discussion with the sculptor. APN was able to attend the event and talk with Rowley about his sculptures from out of thin air and the process needed to create these intricate and detailed works.
I first started working with wire in 1997. I was a junior in college. I just started taking a lot of life drawing classes and filling up sketchbook after sketchbook with life models. And one day I look in the book and I see what I had just drawn and I want to reach in through the paper and grab it and move it around with my hands. So I start redrawing all those figures with wire, and they looked a lot different then. They were very abstract and kind of sloppy. Just evolved from that.
How do you choose your subjects?
Different ways. I might have just an idea of a scene that I want to make, and then go about finding the imagery I want to use to make it. I take a lot of the imagery that I work from the teens and 20s, 19 teens and 20s. A lot of times I'll start with figures in a photograph or a group of photographs. I kind of piece together things. Like this guy and this woman weren't together in a photograph, just two different photographs. When I made this woman to here, I had her outlined and then part of the hoop outlined, and then I went in and started doing all the detail. I used these for the thicker gauges, this for the middle gauges, and these for the small gauges.
You say which?
This is 28 right here. And then there's, in this piece, there's 28, 24, 22, 20, 19, 18, and 16. Oh, wow. The grass to the right of this guy, or his left, this whole strip took me 12 hours to do. I'm hoping they will look at the pieces and see a scene that makes them think about something broader, and they can start filling in the before and after of what's happening in the piece. But I like as much of it to be one piece as I can, so I kind of have to think about where I'm going with it as I'm drawing. But I'll have it on the floor, and then when I need more, I just kind of yank it, and the spool goes, and just pull more on. Whenever I make pieces, the whole time I'm excited about making line do what I want it to do. And it doesn't always work, but when it does, it's very exciting for me. And so I would hope somebody would look at the work and go, wow.
Michelle, I've been to 13 Forest Gallery several times, and they really work hard to rotate the exhibits there. They have a really interesting array of art there, from sculpture to paintings to pottery and all sorts of stuff. It's really, it's a nice place.
Yeah, it's a great asset to the community, and this latest exhibit was really impressive. There is an important update to our Photo of the Month contest, the theme of which is Fall Fun. We've extended the deadline to Thursday, November 13th. Submit your pictures on our Facebook page or email them to news@acmi.tv for a chance to win a $50 gift certificate to Prime, your local butcher. Make sure to submit your creative photos on time to qualify for the prize. As always, we look forward to seeing your pictures and pictures from around the community.
Now we have part 2 of our Halloween movie special. Our reviewer, Krista Benedictus, has gathered staff recommendations for Halloween thrillers. Here he is to present these spooky films. Prepare to be terrified.
Hello and welcome to part 2. Halloween is almost upon us, and I have a fresh batch of spooky movies to satisfy your horror itch. So let us begin. In another attempt to ease myself into outright horror, I started part 2 slowly with Jeff Monroe's suggestion, The Shining. Another Stephen King adaptation, The Shining is directed by master filmmaker Stanley Kubrick and stars Jack Nicholson as Jack Torrance, a man slowly losing his bearing on reality. The film delves into the madness that comes with isolation and creates an effectively creepy atmosphere, giving the viewer that nauseating feeling in the pit of their stomach, that lingering sense of uneasiness. A 5 out of 10 on the scareometer, and worth it just to see one of Jack Nicholson's creepier performances. Next, I decided to go all in and watch a movie I knew would scare me senseless, 2013's The Conjuring. Demonic possession is the exact opposite of my idea of a good time, and anything that remotely touches the subject creeps me the hell out. Pack on some of the most effective jump scares I've seen in a horror film. The Conjuring had me curled up in a ball, checking under the bed, and turning all the lights on. An 8 out of 10, and the only film in this series to give me nightmares. The morally ambiguous Sean Snyder suggested the cult classic The Evil Dead, and I am glad he did. The campiness of the film is absolutely beautiful and turns what should be a terrifying movie into something more, a comedic spook fest of the highest order. Sam Raimi created this film with almost no money, but that did not stop him from making one of the most fun, disgusting, hilarious, and creepy films I've ever seen. A 6 out of 10 on the scale, but it was my favorite, so check it out. Finally, Sean Keane suggested the classic John Carpenter film, The Thing. Gross in a far more visceral way, The Thing was a great capper to this scream fest. If you like disembodied heads, blood and guts all over the place, explosions, aliens, weird spider monsters, paranoia, dread, and most of all, Kurt Russell, then this is the film for you. 7 out of 10 on the scareometer, and it has the best ending of all the films. So that's it. I made it out mostly intact, except for the large black pit that now inhabits my soul. Some final thoughts: fear is different for everyone. Only you know what truly terrifies you. So be careful this Halloween, and most importantly, have fun. I'm Christy Benedictus with Arlington Public News.
Well, Paul, I haven't seen any of those movies on purpose because I don't like scary movies. Have you seen any of them?
The only one I've seen was when The Shining first came out years ago. I saw that, and I have to admit, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Not in a good way either, for weeks
Right.
after that. So it really made an impression on me as it did a lot
I'll pass.
a lot of people. Arlington Public News is a production of Arlington Community Media and functions as a gateway for local participation in issues and events of interest to the community.
Check out our latest segments on the web at news.acmi.tv and join us next time for another edition of Arlington Public News. I'm Michelle Marino.
And I'm Paul Werlin. Thanks for watching. See you next time.